La Belle Dame sans Merci by John Keats. This poem is a ballad. Ballads were a common poetic form in the medieval period, and its directness and simplicity held an appeal for later poets such as Keats. Like most ballads, we begin in media res, and we are told a story. The opening 3 stanzas are narrated by a mystery speaker who comes across a knight and questions him as he is visibly unwell. There is a semantic field of illness and decay, which is mirrored by references to the winter season, which is fast closing in. These give a specific worrying meaning to some of the other words in the stanzas. To loiter is to wait aimlessly without any real sense of direction or purpose, whilst the lily is associated with funerals and death. Keats establishes a pessimistic mood coupled with an air of mystery, as speaker and reader alike wonder what on earth is wrong with the poor knight. The rest of the poem is narrated by the knight. For much of it, he appears to tell a conventional love story of how he met a beautiful woman and how they fell deeply in love. The woman is for the most part described in conventional, idealized terms, whilst his love is intense and apparently reciprocated. Indeed, there is some suggestion that their love is consummated. Wild indicates that the woman was passionate and uncontrolled, which then, coupled with the suggestive mentions of fragrant zone and how she made sweet moan, points to a sexually charged relationship. There's also a euphemistic reference to energetic sex, with the line, "I set her on my pacing steed." However, there are also indicators that the woman is not all that she seems. For one thing, she is a fairish child, an elfin, who belongs to a strange magical world connected with mischief and danger. This gives a more troubling interpretation of the woman's wildness. With hindsight, the knight's utter devotion to her may be the result of a spell or enchantment of some kind, perhaps given whilst she sings her fairy song. We should also question whether she ever really did say she loved him, given that she said so in language strange. How did he know what he said? Was it wishful thinking on his part, or another symptom of the fairy's spell? Certainly, by the 8th stanza, a change is coming once the knight is in her grotto, as her personality changes from making sweet moan to weeping and sighing full sore. Notably, at this moment, her wild eyes are again mentioned, twice. For the remainder of the poem, the enigmatic fairy woman disappears, and the poem's language switches back to a semantic field of horror and death. The knight has been cursed by the beautiful lady without mercy, and like his predecessors is doomed to a listless, hollow existence. The knight is either experiencing a slow death, or has become a member of some kind of undead club of aristocrats. Either way, he is trapped, as the final stanza's repetition of the opening stanza confirms. The poem's overall meaning can be understood in a number of ways. On the one hand, it can be enjoyed as a spooky tale. On the other, its enigmatic qualities and lack of clear-cut answers invites the reader to speculate and offer their own interpretation. Is the poem warning about the dangers of love? Should the reader be on their guard against the femme fatale who promises one thing but delivers something else? Arguably, the knight is punished for breaking the courtly code of chivalry by possibly having sex with a fairy woman. Maybe his illness is a sexually transmitted disease. Keats was a sickly man himself. He would die at the age of just 25, and was frustrated in his love for his fiancée, Fanny Brawne. Whilst not specifically autobiographical, the poem could represent Keats' own anguish about his all too keenly felt mortality.